My name is Chandler Paris. I'm 35 years old, and I'm a stock trader and systems designer for Montgomery Securities in San Francisco. I guess my story is almost standard for getting into the business. I didn't study for it, didn't train for it, didn't have any contacts, didn't do anything. I wound up out here really on a whim. I lived at the YMCA on Golden Gate for 2 weeks, and I was running out of money. And I decided, well, before I just check out and just go back to New York, what I would do is I'll check out a temp agency. And I went to a temp agency, Temporama at the time. And I went in, and the woman says, well, what do you want to do? And I said, well, I don't really want to do much. I don't really want to work, but I thought if I'm going to extend my stay here that I need some type of a job that's limited in hours, but that still pays a decent amount. And she happened to bring up this firm called Montgomery Securities, which at the time had 230 people in it. And I started in the job, and from the first day that I walked in there at 7 o'clock, and I'm bleary-eyed, and I hadn't had coffee yet. I'm just like tired. I'm used to rolling out of bed for the previous 2 weeks, and then plus the other job, 9 o'clock in the morning, and here I walk in. Everybody's hyper and active, and the machines are clicking, and the lights are going off, and people are screaming back and forth, and just taking orders, tickets flying, people running around. I thought this was like the most exciting thing in the world.
Just tell me what's working on the sideline. 25,000 to 35.
Talked to the personnel manager, and she said, well, you know, we do have a position for you. We'd like to hire you, but we have to wait for the guy to come back from China. He was off on his yearly visit to China, and I was going to be his sales assistant. The guy comes back from China, and I sit down and I talk to him. And he says, well, what do you want to do? What are you interested in? And I told him, I don't really know. I work in a museum. I'm from Brooklyn. What do I care what I do? And he was like, well, I'd like to hire you as my assistant. And I said, well, okay, fine. I'll take the assistant's job. And he said, well, do you have any questions for me? And the only thing I could think of asking him was, what kind of car do you drive? What do you know about the business? I don't know anything. You teach me, right? And he says, drove a BMW. I think it was a 635 at the time, the new 800 series. And I was like, okay, good. He goes, okay, and what do you want? I go, well, I want your car. And he hired me, and I started the next day full time. I use a lot of different machinery. I have in front of my face 4 21-inch screens. I have 3 keyboards. I have what's called a turret that's a bank of, I don't know, anywhere up to 500 phone lines. And I generally use over the course of the day all of the machinery that's there. The types of information that you get across the machine are quotes on the companies, which means the price of the stock itself, the last sale, the bid, the ask, the volume. You also get charts to show what the stock has done over a period of time.
Yeah. 1 for 5 and 3/4 for 10.
The one thing that I think I've really gained from working in the market for all these years is the business is easy, the business is simple. There really isn't anything that you need in terms of special training. What you do need is a very hard shell, so when people yell at you, you don't take it personally, and 2 is to have a damn good sense of humor. I think most people, when they think about stock traders, they think about them as being rude, abrupt, short. In general, that's all true, because when you're dealing with a real-time business where things change on a second-by-second basis, you have very little patience for waiting online, for somebody to come back with you an answer, don't like being put on hold. It generally quickens the pace of anything that you do in life. So traders generally are going to be the more abrupt people. Salesmen the same way. They don't expect no's for answers. You just don't. I mean, somebody tells you no, it's more like, well, what are my options? What could I possibly do to get an answer for this, that, or the other thing? We're not as patient as anybody else is. Nobody in this business is patient because time is money. And that's really what it comes down to.
Bert, go to 5 1/4.